Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2022 Toyota Prius, we're going to be showing you how to install the EcoHitch Trailer Hitch receiver. But before we do that, why don't we check it out and make sure that it's going to be the right hitch for you. Even though the Prius is more of a compact type car, it doesn't mean you can't use it to do a lot of different things. And it seems like a lot of Prius owners out there like to use bike racks, maybe cargo carriers when you're going on a trip, or even pulling around some light trailers, you know, maybe a kayak trailer or something along them lines. So having a hitch back here is going to really open up your opportunities on what you can use your Prius for. Just to kind of compare this hitch to some of the other ones available, honestly, if I was going to put a hitch on my Prius, this is probably the one I'd definitely lean towards. And that's really for one big reason, and that is the fact that this one has a 2" by 2" receiver tube opening. So this opening's a little bit larger compared to the other ones, which have the smaller 1¼ by 1¼ opening. So more or less what that means is this one is going to be much more versatile. A lot more accessories and things of that nature are going to be able to work with this hitch as opposed to the other ones. Not to mention too, this one is going to have some higher weight capacities, right? So definitely can't go wrong there. Even if you're not going to be pushing the limits by any means, in my opinion, it's always nice to have a little overkill and give you that extra peace of mind. So looking at the hitch, we kind of talked about it having that larger 2" by 2" opening. It's going to have a reinforced collar there at the end for some extra strength, and honestly I like the look of it too. Kind of makes it look more finished. It's going to have a kind of a hammer tone powder coat finish, so should hold up for some time. And kind of as a bonus as well, this is actually made from recycled materials. So as far as that goes, you know, every little bit helps. It is going to use that standard 5/8 pin and clip. Keep in mind though, pin and clip does not come included. If you need one, not really a big deal. You can always grab it here at eTrailer. The safety chain openings are going to be a plate style, and they're relatively large and should allow us to use just about any size hook that we might have. As far as the hitch's weight capacities go, the numbers are going to be pretty decent. The maximum gross tongue weight rating is going to be 375 pounds. That's going to be the amount of weight pushing down on the hitch, so that's good for those 1 to 4 bike racks, just to give you an example. As far as the hitch's maximum gross trailer weight rating goes, that's going to be 2,500 pounds, and that's going to be the amount of weight pulling on the hitch, so weight of your trailer plus anything that you might have on it. I do always like to suggest, so never a bad idea just to grab your Toyota's owner's manual. That way you can make sure your Prius can pull that much weight safely. Now I'm going to give you a couple of measurements, and you can use these to help figure out which hitch mounted accessories to get. From the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, that's going to be about 13.5 inches. So if you do plan on pulling a trailer around, chances are really good you're going to need to get a ball mount that has a rise in the shank. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of the rear bumper, that's going to be about 2 inches, and you can use that measurement to help figure out that if any folding accessories you might have can be stored in an upright position without contacting your bumper. But other than that, at the end of the day, a hitch you really can't go wrong with. You know, it's going to be really versatile, have the highest weight ratings, and in my opinion, I think it looks pretty good too. You know, it definitely doesn't look out of place by any means. As far as the installation goes, I was actually pleasantly surprised. It really wasn't too bad. You do have to remove the fascia, but Toyota made it pretty easy to do that. All the fasteners are easy to get to and see and everything else like that. So as long as you take your time, you really shouldn't run into too many issues. But speaking of that, why don't we go ahead and put the hitch on together now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the back of our Prius, and we are going to need to remove the rear fascia. That way we're able to get the hitch on. So to start, we're going to open up our hatch, and we're going to need to pull our taillights out, and what that's going to entail is removing these plastic covers first. To get these covers off, here at the end, you can take a trim tool, even a small flathead screwdriver, and just pop those out, and that will expose a couple of bolts that's holding our taillight in. So these are 10mm in size. Let's get these removed. And I want to mention from this point on, anything we do to one side of the vehicle, we're also going to do to the other side because it'll be set up the same way. And then we can remove our tail light So you just carefully want to kind of put some pressure on it this way. You can work it back and forth a little bit. Don't get too carried away though, because you don't want to break any tabs or anything. And just continue to do this, and eventually it'll pop out and we'll be able to unplug it. That is a trick you can do too. Just kind of use the palm of your hand and kind of hit it like that, pushing back. A lot of times that'll help pop it free. But we can undo our taillight bulbs there. So they're just quarter turns. Rotate them a quarter of a turn and they pop out. We have a clip here with our wiring attached, so that just pops out and set our light off to the side. Now underneath our vehicle, along the whole bottom edge here, we're gonna have quite a few pushpin type fasteners like these that we need to pull out. We're gonna take out any of them that are actually attaching our fascia to the panels and everything else. So we're just gonna work our way around. You can take a flathead screwdriver, work underneath the head of that fastener, get it to come down. Sometimes what helps too is to use a trim panel tool. Usually makes it a little bit easier. So we'll get these popped out and just continue to work our way essentially all the way around. So with all those fasteners loose, you can kind of see we have some movement there in our rear fascia. We're gonna get these panels out of the way. So for this one here in the middle, looks like we're gonna have this fastener. You can take a big flathead screwdriver and just turn it. Sometimes you do have to apply a little downward pressure while you're doing that to get it to pop free. We should be able to kind of slide this out and set it off to the side for now. Now we can move to our wheel well edge, and up at the top here where the quarter panel meets the rear fascia, we're gonna have a small plastic pushpin fastener. These things are super brittle, so be careful. Might not hurt just to kind of work it around a little bit, try to break it loose, because one of the issues is dirt and stuff gets clogged up in there. So you know, go the extra mile, blast it out, that area out with some air, or shoot in some type of lubricant might help it out. But that said, take a small screwdriver and we're just gonna carefully try to work the head, that fastener out, and pry out on the bottom of it. So back up top here by our taillight area, we're gonna have two more fasteners, this 10mm bolt, and pull that out. And if you look down here, we're gonna have a Phillips head screw. With these, you might have to hold that ring from spinning. Pull that stuff out and continue on. So now with the next set of hands, we can get our fascia removed. I did put some painter's tape along the seam here. That way we don't have to worry about scratching anything. But what you're gonna do is start at the corner and start to just kind of pop this out. And along the way, there is some clips that you can kind of push down on to make it easier to come out. And once I have this off, I'll show you a better look at them. So here's where, along the way, there's some dots or some bumps there, and the clips kind of go over them, and I was just pushing down, and that was releasing them. And actually, everything came off pretty easy. On the driver's side, however, though, we are going to have a wiring connector, and we'll disconnect it by pushing down on that tab and releasing it. And now we can set our fascia off to the side somewhere safe. Just to kind of give you guys a better look at the electrical connector we disconnected. So that's the tab I was referencing, and when you push down on it, that will allow you to pull the two apart. If it's super tight, sometimes what I found too, when you're pushing down, to kind of actually work it forward and back a little bit, and sometimes that'll help kind of free up any dirt or anything in there, and then you're obviously able to keep it pushed down and separate the two wires. Now we can remove our bumper beam. So on each side of the vehicle, it's going to be held in place with 4 bolts, 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. These are going to be a 12 millimeter in size. So I already have the other side's hardware off. You should be able to lift up a little bit on the beam and get it removed. So if you look at the back side of our bumper beam where it attaches to the back of our car, we're gonna have this tab that sticks up. We need to flatten that out. So just a small hammer, give it a few whacks until it's sitting just about like that. So if you look where our bumper beam was attached, this bottom hole towards the very outside, what you're going to do is just take one of the included bolts, and from the front to the back, I'm just going to thread this in. And essentially this will just be kind of used as an alignment pin almost when we go to put our hitch up and everything. And that way makes it much easier to kind of set in place and get everything going. So don't need to tighten this down or anything, just keep it running until it bottoms out and we'll be good to go. So now we can get our hitch into place. So you want to lay it down on the ground and then take your bumper beam, and the bumper beam bolt holes are going to line up with the holes in the hitch. And then we can lift this up as an assembly, more or less. Slide it over that stud. And get everything lined up. You're going to take a bolt, put on a split lock washer, and then a flat washer. And we want to get these going hand tight. So I'm going to use that same hardware combination to get the rest of them hand tight. And once we have that done, then we can go back and pull out that bolt that we put in earlier as an alignment pin and put that in back in the same way that we're doing these. So before you tighten the hitch down, you want to make sure that it's centered because you can move it from side to side. So to kind of give us a reference, what I did is I pushed the hitch far over as I could towards the driver's side, took a pen, made a mark. Then I pulled it all the way over towards the passenger side, did the same thing. So now we can kind of bump it over until we about get in the middle of those two, and we know that will be centered. Now we can come back with a 13 millimeter socket and snug up all of our hardware. Once you have the hardware snug, you need to make sure and come back with a torque wrench and tighten all the hardware down to the amount specified in the instructions. If you don't have a torque wrench, you can always get one here at eTrailer, or a lot of times you go to your local auto parts store, and they'll have one there available that you can rent. Now what we can do is grab that underbody panel that we removed earlier from the middle and trim it out. So there's a diagram and the instructions, just some measurements that you can follow. And so I kind of drew that out. This being somewhat thick plastic, I'm just going to use a Dremel tool to kind of speed things up. But you could probably use, you know, maybe a handsaw or maybe a utility knife or a pair of snips, something like that. But either way, this material has to be removed. So we'll go ahead and cut that out now. So now, again, with the next set of hands, you can get our fascia reinstalled. Don't forget to plug in any wiring that you may have disconnected. And this is simply just going to kind of pop back in place the opposite way that we removed it. So, you know, reattaching our bumper and everything, and I just wanted to show the middle piece that we trimmed out, how it fits up here and everything else. So just goes right around the hitch, and everything goes back together opposite way that we took it apart. And honestly, pretty straightforward. Everything fits good, and you really don't have to do anything crazy to get everything to go back together. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the EcoHitch Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2022 Toyota Prius.